And it's a fantastic day today. We've had a little bit of technical glitches, a little bit of technical success, and a lot of fun doing it all. I'm John, founder of WIO Support, and today we've got uh, Mike with us,
Hey everybody.
Jackson,
Hey, how's it going?
and our flight engineer, as always, Artie.
Good evening.
Well, I apologize for the delay in start. Thank you to those that have stayed tuned in up until this point. We may or may not leave this half hour trailer at the beginning when we post it on YouTube because that would be a fun intro into our podcast. But yeah, today is September the 12th, 2024. We're talking about episode 19. We've named this one Potassium. For those of you who know, you'll get it. So we've got a fantastic set of things to talk about, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about WordPress. We're going to talk a lot about YubiKey. We also have what was your subject there, Jackson?
Well, there was the first commercial spacewalk that just happened recently. Um, and there is also, I don't know if we'll have time to get to it, but Apple Intelligence was just announced. They had teased it a while ago, and they've just announced it along with its features for the new iPhone 16 and all their devices.
So is Apple Intelligence abbreviated as AI?
Mm,
I didn't even think about that. I don't know if they're allowed to coin that. They'll try,
I'm pretty
probably.
sure somebody's tried.
They'll try.
It'll be like with the old iMac and everything. It'll be with a little A and a big I, maybe.
Wait, but then it's backwards. It has to be capital A, little I. Everything else is little I.
Maybe it's IAI.
I.
I don't know.
Yeah,
iPod, iPad, IAI, EIEIO.
Bingo was his name. Oh,
Uh, well, how about we talk about? There's no easy segue or pivot off of that one. How about we jump right into WordPress? Uh,
right.
Artie, I think you got the intro to that one.
Yeah. So WordPress has announced that they are going to be forcing users that have the ability to edit plugins and edit the themes to use two-factor authentication. And they're pushing this forward because let's be real here, WordPress is a big target for people that want to cause problems. Not saying WordPress causes problems, saying that they need to shore up their security, and this is one of their means of doing it. Um, so,
I wonder what their market share is right now. Mike, do you know that off the top of your head?
A lot. It's a lot of people. Like I remember when I first got started with WordPress way back when it was something like version 2.0. Like 2.0 had just come out. And the reason we got into it was because at the time, the company I was working for, we had a Yahoo account and we were doing some really basic web hosting just through Yahoo. And Yahoo offered like WordPress as one of the things that you could just install and run and everything. And this was back when like the whole web, remember when it was called Web 2.0 and everything? Like we're now going away from static HTML pages to dynamically generated content. And with as much as I was trying to update the website, I was like, it'd really be nice if I could just dynamically do this. There's got to be an easier way. And so WordPress was our option. And the company I worked for, we ended up just sticking with WordPress for years and years and years, from 2.0 all the way up until I quit the company, left the company, and I think that was like version 5 maybe a few years ago, and now we're on 6. So it's been quite the ride, and I've just watched the number of plugins and themes and the library of add-ons. It's just exploded. There's all kinds of stuff out there that plugs into WordPress?
To answer the earlier question, as of December 2023, of the top 10 million websites, it's used by 43% of them.
Top
That's
10
pretty.
million being as 10 million used or rated?
More than likely, the top 10 million as listed by internet search.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a significant number considering the amount of options that you have out there, or the amount of people that do their own.
I have a lot of catching up to do. I've only been to a couple thousand.
Hmm.
10 million is a lot. And isn't there a number of, websites that is considered, really useful?
So Adam, because of their machine learning and analytics of things, for e-commerce and for business, there's only about 15,000 websites and that's domain names, right? That's not
Oh, okay, yeah.
subdomains. That's not like store.apple.com or anything like that. It's apple.com, it's microsoft.com, it's google.com, and all those others. There's about 15,000 websites that we care to go to as far as business matters. Frightening statistic. It's something like 87% of new website domain names are for nefarious activities to
I
promote and
believe that.
propagate malware.
That's pretty crazy. But well, and going back to what Artie was saying at the beginning with two-factor authentication on the sites, and just to confirm, that's not, say I build my site and I put my own plugins on there. Um, that's not requiring someone who's just using plugins, or say maybe they write one for themselves. They're not required for two-factor, but if you are publishing a plugin or you're publishing a
Um,
theme for, is that right?
I believe it's for if you are writing them entirely, even if you're not sharing it with anybody, just as a means of protecting your stuff, protecting users that visit your site, and protecting in case you decide down the line to publish something.
Gotcha. Because that
Well,
makes sense because there's been instances before where someone gets into an administrative account and can, push an update to a
Yep.
plugin, right?
well, and I can't think of a good reason not to have two-factor on a public-facing server.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good thing.
Absolutely.
So that said, one of the things that I tracked on this week, I do want to double down on a point. You have got to lock your credit. Now, I'm not going to ask you guys and put you on the spot, but have you at least thought about freezing your credit with the big three?
I have
Because I
certainly
got
thought
news
about
for
it.
you. There's a fourth one.
What's the fourth one?
There's a fourth credit bureau that is starting to become more. I don't know what the word is.
Prominent?
It's you got TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Um, Innovis is another one that's out there, and it has a pretty slick interface. When you go freeze your account, it lets you freeze your credit. It will mail you a serial number that you use. It's like a 10-digit number, and that 10-digit PIN will let you unfreeze with their service. So out of all three of them, the three big ones, this one beats the ease of freezing yourself hands down because it mails something physically to you that you use to unlock your credit in the future.
Hmm.
Cool.
So in Novus, go freeze your credit there too, because I know that all three of you have already frozen your credit. So
Hmm.
good job, guys.
I have
How do
credit.
you spell that? Is it INNOVISIC? And like
It is
novice?
spelled. Let me get it correct. INNOVIS.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Hmm.
There's actually a number of smaller credit reporter places, but nobody uses them. At least nobody reputable. And anybody wants to pull credit using not these big three and now Innovus, they're just asking for trouble.
I wonder
But
if
yeah, free
Innovus.
credit.
I wonder if Innovus came to prominence because the other three seem to have been um, fumbling a lot the last decade or so.
What are you talking about? They're doing great.
Mhm.
No, frankly, I would love to see some sort of protection for consumers. And here's a heads up, guys. I will be offline next week. I will be in Washington D.C. talking with some of our legislators and some of our national commerce crew. So I've got a chance to actually talk. I'm going to try and well, I'm not going to say lobby because that brings in all kinds of regulations that I don't want to deal with. But I'm going to drop I'm going to drop the phrase that we need to do something to save all of our credit, and it's got to stop being a default open. It's got to be default frozen. The fact that anybody in the world could go fill in and get a credit card for John Kiesling is frightening. There are babies being born right now that have ruined credit for the rest of their life because their Social Security got hacked. So, yeah, something's got to happen. And with this last data breach of 2.9 billion records being leaked, it's all out there, guys. So, it's a soapbox I'm going to get on. I might get on a couple more times, but we'll see if
We'll
I
just
can.
wait for the next data breach. It's bound to be larger because, they always are.
This one was too big, but I don't think it was too big enough.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a little frightening out there. So two-factor authentication is a great thing. This way of freezing is another way of doing two-factor authentication with your credit. I invite all our listeners to do that because two-factor is super important. What's better than two-factor, Mike?
What's better than two-factor? Just not having an
Yeah.
account. Just live in a cave.
No,
Unplug
there's
yourself
something in
from
between.
technology.
I store my
Something
money
in
in my
between.
mattress.
Password managers are good to have.
How about hardware keys?
Hardware keys like YubiKeys, those are
Yeah.
absolutely great to have.
So YubiKey has had a fantastic foolproof track record until this week. Some researchers now we're talking about researchers that are trying to find ways of hacking like blinking lights on modems to track the computational ability of the CPU, the flicker rate of the LED, to then reverse engineer the passcode for that router. These guys can do that. Okay, so it's laboratory grade hacks.
Oh,
They have finally figured out how to break YubiKey. Now, YubiKey has an updated version, firmware 5.7. If you have 5.7 or later, you're safe. But you can duplicate a YubiKey under very specific circumstances. You need, uh, let's see, a scalpel. You need to crack open the YubiKey. You need to trace the electrodes on it. You need to put your electric probes. And the lab said it's about 40,000 euros worth of equipment that they used to probe the YubiKey. You also need the user's name and the user's password, and you need probably about 100 tries at the YubiKey to then derive the cipher off the hardware chip. But it can be done.
just a
You know
few
what the
things
best
that you
part of
need.
this? You know what the best part of this news, Jackson?
What?
Everybody skipped over the complication and is publishing YubiKeys can be hacked.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It can. Theoretically, it can. But if you get a new one that's 5.7 or higher on the firmware, you're good. But I got bad news for us. Everybody that's got a YubiKey that's 5.6 or earlier, there is no way to update the firmware.
Oh, really? Why is that?
The firmware is hard coded, like mechanically coded into the chip.
Mm-hmm.
It is the essence of ROM, read-only memory. It is hard coded and hard stitched in, and you cannot upgrade it. The reason they do that is if there was a way of upgrading the BIOS or the firmware of your YubiKey, somebody could get in the man-in-the-middle attack and get you a bogus firmware that could theoretically exfiltrate data from your YubiKey.
True. So, but I mean, now they allow that. So, I mean, is there something specific they've done to remove that possibility, or is it simply just they took the risk and now they can update their firmware to avoid?
Nope. No, it is physically impossible to update the firmware on these,
No, on the newer ones.
on all
Or
of them. That's
all of them. Oh, okay. I misunderstood you then. That makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean they're safe unless your key falls into the hands of a hacker with $40,000 worth of equipment.
And basically already has credentials to begin with that I don't know. Like, yeah, somebody can break into my house too if he found the key lying on the ground. I mean, if I gave him the keys, he would get into my house. So that does sound like a lot of work to have to hack it.
Yeah, it's one of those that unless you are a threat to national security, nobody's going to break into your key. Nobody's going to care. And worse than that, the physical destruction you've got to go through to get to the core of the YubiKey makes it impossible.
Hmm.
You'll know somebody got there. And if somebody got there, why not just steal the YubiKey and use it? I mean,
I
let's
mean, yeah, there you go.
like
Like you have
why
it,
duplicate it when you could steal it?
just you have it. Just
Seems
We do not
slightly
condone
cheaper
stealing.
and less painful to
yeah.
just five-finger discount somebody's YubiKey.
Again, we do not condone theft.
No, don't do it. Bad idea.
No, but it's an effective way sometimes to for red team penetration testers. So if you get permission, Jackson, do you know what a red team is?
I mean, I have an idea, but I wouldn't be able to define it accurately, probably.
Okay, so just a 30-second version. Um, red team is the guys that go out and try and break into companies legally. If you've ever seen the movie Sneakers,
Okay.
that's a red team. Blue team are the guys that fix all the security vulnerabilities and keep networks safe. But we rely on the red team to double check our work and make sure we're doing our job right.
Right.
Red team, you need to make sure you get permission from people that are actually able to give you permission to try and break into a building or break into a computer or any of those things. Because if you don't and the cops come get you, you're going to spend a couple years in jail. Don't break the law. Have everything all verified and checked out, and then steal YubiKey
If you can.
if you can. So yeah, that's red teams. We at Wire Support, I think the blue shirts help identify us as the blue team. So we're here to keep you safe.
Wake up and you could go on tour in Vegas.
Mm.
Yeah, no,
Took you a bit.
no.
Mm-mm.
I couldn't think of a good. No, I'll just say no.
The Blue Nerd Group.
The blue nerd group. Okay, then yes, I'm in.
I mean, it kind of is nerdy already. The fact that they take a bunch of PVC pipe and bang on it and make all kinds of incredible music. So I don't know how you could. I don't know.
They
It'd be
did
fun.
promote Intel for a while, and
They
Intel bought
did. They
them
did.
to
That's right.
Huh, I didn't even know that.
cool commercials. Google it, YouTube it. It's awesome stuff.
I will.
Yeah, it's back when the Pentium was brand new. It was awesome.
Oh, I see. I see.
That
It's
Yeah.
been been a year or two.
It's been a year.
Hey, so I got a question back on the WordPress two-factor authentication. Does this mean that WordPress now is going to have its own built-in 2FA mechanism? Because I think, Jackson, if I remember right, we've had to primarily rely on third-party plugins.
Yes.
So, I mean, and therein kind of lies a little bit of a chicken and the egg. Is like, if I'm developing plugins and it's a two-factor authentication plugin, how do I know I'm getting a good one that's not,
Yeah. Right.
you know,
um
compromised, you know?
the article did not mention anything about that,
Hmm.
but I would assume that they have developed it if they are going to be forcing everyone that is making these things to use it. They have also implemented another password for people that use repositories like GitHub that you'll have like an administrator password for your account, and then anybody that is associated with the project that you're working on will have their own separate password for that, so that it can track and it can prevent you from having to reset all the passwords at once if the account gets compromised.
And yes, very much put two-factor authentication on your GitHub as well. It does, that is a thing. You can set that up. And
It's
if you
mandatory
are a
now on GitHub.
developer, yeah, in GitHub, it's mandatory now. So, but I remember
Right under
even when it was
YubiKey.
not mandatory, I set it up because it's like, that's just a good idea. Like, I don't want somebody hacking into my projects. And I mean, especially if where we had, when we look back at some of those recent hacks, like what was it with the OpenSSH, I think it was, that somebody played the game and was able to slip in a commit of malicious code, or at least some backdoor code that would,
Happens all way more than you think.
and yeah, I'm sure it does. And so
It's
just
like,
because,
So put a
yeah.
YubiKey on your GitHub.
Hmm.
so if you're not using two-factor authentication, let me use a little simile for you. It's like locking the doors of your car with the windows down.
Hmm.
Your car is
I
safe,
see no problem with that.
but not as safe as you think it is.
Hmm. That always bugged me when people lock their convertibles with the top down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
I
want to
guess
sneak over and unlock it, right?
I guess it arms the alarm system, but still, it just looks weird, you know?
Just reach in and unlock it.
Hmm.
Make them come back and wonder what happened. Gosh, I'm in a feisty mood today with a little malicious compliance kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Well, speaking of feisty, we got a spacewalk that just happened.
Yeah. Um, First commercial space flight in history. Done through SpaceX by, take a guess, a billionaire. His name
Which
is
billionaire?
Jared Isaacman, which I've actually never heard of. And I couldn't tell you what he does. Um, all I know is that he's a tech entrepreneur.
He probably played the Bitcoin just right.
Could be, could be. Um, but shot up in the SpaceX Dragon capsule. He spent a little over 10 minutes outside of the actual spacecraft doing some tests of a spacesuit, testing mobility, hopefully not its air tightness. Hopefully they would do that on the ground, but it's a basic functionality, and was also the highest altitude manned mission done since the Apollo missions in '75.
Oh,
The last
really?
Apollo mission, I should say. Yeah, done
Higher
at
than
I think
higher than any space shuttle mission, really?
done at 800 and let me see the exact 870 miles was the highest that they reached.
Wow.
Yeah, and the International Space Station sits at around 200 250 miles. So
Mhm.
they were out there.
Wow. Well, good for
So,
him.
That's cool. First
let
thing
you
I would
know,
do if I was up in space is I'd radio down back to home base and say, "Hey, I can see my house from here."
Well,
Well,
at least you know it's in your field of view.
I mean, you could be on the other side of the world, and then you
I
really
could call my mom from up here.
Hey, Ma.
Get off the
catch
dang
us.
roof. So,
Yeah, actually, as he was looking out, what he said was, let me grab his full quote here. He said, uh, radioing back to SpaceX, "Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world," which is kind of helps put some things into perspective, right? You just take a step back and you just stare at a blue ball, and a lot of things kind of, well, they can if you're open to it. Click and you just see, a lot of the things we worry about day to day don't really matter a whole lot.
During the Voyager missions, Carl Sagan did something just along those lines. It was brilliant. He had the Voyager probe spin around and take a picture of Earth from very far away, and it was a tiny pale blue dot,
Mhm.
and just mixed in with all the stars. Just to give that perspective of, this world is big, it's awesome, but yeah, it's precious.
You know what this billionaire needs to do is haul a couple of staunch flat earthers up there and just blow their
I,
minds and just put an end to the madness.
I actually have a cheaper idea than going to space. Let's do a reality TV show. You've seen The Amazing Race.
Mhm.
Let's do Find the Edge. Let's do a reality show and fully fund like all these different groups. And you first one to find the edge gets $1 billion. Planes, trains, automobiles, all of those. Get to the edge first and win. We want a picture over the edge.
Which is so funny to think about too, is like, you know, as we start exploring space, it's crazy to think about how much we haven't even explored Earth, right? There's so much unexplored still. And you could take an entire lifetime, entire probably 20 lifetimes, and you wouldn't see it all. There's so much to do and see. Um, Not to say that we shouldn't explore. I think it's space exploration is an interesting thing, and who knows what we'll learn and what we will find out there. But it's so funny to think about how massive the Earth is, and yet how small it is.
Mhm.
It'd be interesting if we get that Mars colony figured out.
not in
Yeah.
our lifetime.
It's a one-way trip. At least till they drill and find oil on Mars.
Do you realize the scientific magnitude of that if they found oil
Drill.
on Mars?
Well, that's where all the dinosaurs went after they got after they, after they got exterminated, or as John said, for the flat earthers, they got launched.
Yeah, the asteroid hit the edge of the disk and spun them off into space.
Uh-huh.
To Mars.
They're not
Cool.
extinct. They were just removed by centripetal force. Yeah, so that would be an awesome trip to actually go out and test a spacesuit and realize that there but for a couple inches between you and the suit is an absolute vacuum of space that will kill you in seconds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Pretty
Yeah, sign me
humbling.
up. Death in just a few inches away.
Technically, it's not an absolute vacuum,
Hmm.
but it's close enough.
Close enough for your body.
If it were
It's
an
not
absolute vacuum, we wouldn't be able to, what is it? Hear the sun if we were out there.
Oh, did you see the James Webb thing? Just to geek out for a second. They
That's a
discovered that
telescope,
there's
right?
yeah. They discovered that there's like a dust field that surrounds galaxies, and they're saying that there's more mass in the dust than there is on all the planets and stars inside the galaxies.
really. Wow.
Is it fairy dust? Is that what keeps it all suspended in space?
If it were fairy dust, it would be weightless.
So it makes
Well,
you fly to Neverland.
I mean, dust can have mass. It doesn't have to have weight necessarily.
Mass versus weight. You must be in physics right now.
Yeah, sorry, that's my classes are haunting me.
Okay,
Do you
I've,
feel
I've,
heavier when you walk through the halls of the physics department?
I've got a question for you then, Jackson. You want to
Oh
know
no.
how dense I think you are?
Uh,
Just divide your mass by your volume.
Yeah, yeah.
good
Which
old
one?
Archimedes.
My my mic volume or
That's a different kind of
which
density that you bring up right there.
Okay, so I got questions on how you're doing in your physics class.
Don't start. The semester just started. I don't know anything yet. All we're doing is integrating strange charge densities over a sphere, and I don't understand any of it.
Well, you should use AI to help you through those classes. Do they let you do AI in college now?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of been funny since I've been here. I've kind of seen it evolve a little bit, where it was like, don't use AI. Now it's like, I mean, you can use AI. We'll know if you do, if you're using it for like something that we expect to come from a human, right? But I mean, like, you can use AI to do certain things, but I mean, obviously, it's not going to be right most of the time. Well, I shouldn't say most of the time. It's not going to be right sometimes. Um, Another thing that's it's not AI, but there's some pretty powerful tools that will actually do lots of computations, like Wolfram Alpha's Mathematica. I don't use it, but I know there's a couple people that use it. It's like its own coding language,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps you set up if you got these massive equations that have a bajillion variables that you need to keep track of. You don't have to type everything in every single time. Then you can keep track of all your variables, and then you just run it. So I think it's back to what your question was. The answer is yes. They don't necessarily encourage it, but they also don't discourage it. However, they don't allow you to use it to, say, submit your final um, essay or something like that.
Not that I'm encouraging or endorsing this, but lately I've been seeing in YouTube ads, it's come up recently for products that will it's like a couple of college guys like, "Hey, dude, let's go to the party," and I can't, my professor wants me to rewrite my essay and da 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 da, and he's got those, just use AI, like I can't because he uses the AI detection. Like, well, dude, then you should use this because you know, and it's to circumvent AI detection, and I'm just like, am I really seeing this advertised? Like, did I just see an advertisement for cheating? what I just saw? Like, it's getting crazy. And I know that professors, my daughter, she took a concurrent enrollment class in English for her senior year. And the professor was really nice about it that he did allow them to use AI for their final paper up to a point. So he's like, get your sources, read through your sources, figure out which sources you want to use that have some good information. Let's have AI generate the summary for you for your sources, and then, so build your summaries that way. And because there's like certain things I think he didn't want them to spend too much time on. And so AI was a way to get it done quickly. But then at that, he's also saying, double check it and make sure the AI got it right. That
Right.
it didn't like put some glaring error in there that that the article said something when in fact it didn't, or something like that. So double check it, make sure it's correct. And then all they had to do was really just focus on writing the paper itself, because they let the AI do all the other kind of more menial stuff, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So it was a good experience for her. I know that when I was doing the college classes, the AI was still new enough that I don't think professors really knew what to make of it. And then all of a sudden it kind of came out like, don't use AI. Don't use AI. You got to do this yourself. And it's just like with the calculator. We're taught in like the elementary years, when you're first learning arithmetic and everything, don't use the calculator, because you need to learn how to do 2 + 2 = 4. You need to learn why 2 + 2 = 4. You use the calculator, it's just a shortcut, and you're not learning you're getting an understanding of why it is the way it is. Then when you get into the higher math, it's like, okay, we all know 2 + 2 = 4, and there's certain like just steps. It's like, we can't waste time doing this. Use the calculator, do that stuff, so that you can then show that you got the right answer on this, quadratic function, or in your pre-calculus class, or whatever it is. That's when you need to use the calculators to get through it faster. So I think AI is going to go the same direction. I think it's going to turn into a tool, and we're just going to learn that up to a point, it's going to be no AI. And then once everybody has a grasp on how maybe how a paper is written, or what makes an essay, then we can use AI and work more on the fine tuning and constructing of our message.
Mm-hmm.
Use it as a tool.
No, that's a very astute observation. I mean, we've just begun to use AI for the embetterment of society. I don't know if that's a word or not, but hey, I'll use it to make the world a better place. How about that? The To use AI would be a fantastic thing, but we don't want to replace the human element with AI
Mhm.
unless you're Apple. But we'll cover Apple Intelligence on the next podcast. We've kind of run out of time on this one. Definitely want to keep the conversation going. But sorry to cut you guys off. I think we are out of time. It's been a fantastic discussion. I really enjoy having a conversation with the two of you, and Artie too.
Likewise.
Yeah, it's been great.
Come on, Artie. I opened the door for you.
Yeah, after slamming it in my face, I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be awesome. So next time we're hitting 20 years or 20 episodes in, guys. This is
20 years. Woo.
20 years, 1 year. Count them. It's awesome. Well, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to put a pin in this and talk Apple Intelligence and a few other hot button items that come up between here and there. Until then, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
I'm here apparently.
And we couldn't do it without you, Artie. Appreciate you so much. We'll talk to everybody soon. Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
I